Get to Steve Kovach, actually get more on Apple and, frankly, Steve, on what we can expect from the company in terms of how they may respond to this.
Yeah, David, no comment from Apple right away on this latest from the president. But like you said, we do know Tim Cook and the president met at the White House earlier this week. But let's kind of math the math out here for a second and what we know about the supply chain picture with Apple. We know, first of all, in the June quarter, Apple said we're going to have a $900 million charge related to all of these tariffs. Beyond that, though, they don't have much visibility. And so then the question becomes, what does the supply chain look like right now? The picture Apple kind of painted on that earnings call a couple weeks ago was we're going to be shifting production of gadgets that are going to be made or sold in the United States to India. That's for iPhones, of course. And then for other products like MacBooks and watches and AirPods, that's going to come from Vietnam, which, of course, have those lower tariff rates. But as far as what it would take in order to get the supply chain over here to the United States, just enormously expensive. We've been saying this for months now since this whole tariff picture just started. I want to point to a really great article that our Kif Lesswing did on CNBC.com several weeks ago, just pointing out what the cost of an iPhone would be if the production did, in fact, move over to the United States. And at the high end of the estimates, $3,500 for an iPhone. Right now, you can buy one as cheap as about $700. It depends on what model you get, of course. There are estimates all over the place from, $1,500 to $3,500. Wells Fargo out with a note this morning also saying that if this India bit that the president was talking about this morning, individual phones per phone would have to go up $100 to $300 per unit. So that is what the cost of that would be. By the way, all that math I just did for you, that's cheaper than that 25%. So right now, with this latest threat from the president, it still makes more sense for Apple to continue moving forward, building those U.S. iPhones in India. And by the way, they're doubling down on this. The Financial Times reporting overnight, guys, that Apple is putting another $1.5 billion into Foxconn to make a new facility to continue that ramp of India production. So, again, no signs from Apple at all that we're going to see a U.S.-made iPhone anytime soon, guys.
All of these cost estimates, Steve, are interesting, but I always go back to that line from Tim Cook. I think it was back in 2017, where he said it's operating in China is not about the money, it's about the skills.
That's exactly right here. And we can talk about robots and sci-fi all we want. That's just not going to happen. The way the iPhones are made, you need that skilled labor at a massive, massive scale. And only China can do that right now, and India increasingly so, of course. We just don't have that kind of labor. And with the immigration picture in the United States, where is that labor force going to go to? I've looked at polls that say, we want to bring manufacturing back to the United States, but I don't want to work in those manufacturing jobs. So there's just a labor gap there. And the way the iPhones are built, I know, folks like Howard Lutnick love to say robots are going to be doing it one day, but that is not the way the iPhones are put together. You need a massive labor force that simply does not exist here. I was just listening to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He was on Fox News a little bit ago talking about this, and he claimed that he talked to Tim Cook this week and also said he doesn't know what the cost would be to bring it over. I have a hard time believing that Tim Cook did not express everything I just did. I have a hard time believing he did not express that to the president and the Treasury Secretary as well. It is an enormous cost. The administration has to know that, and yet we keep seeing this pressure being put on Apple in particular, guys.
Steve, thanks. Apple, of course, now down 2% this morning. That's our Steve Kovach.